THE SONG OF THE FAIRIES, when they made the road across the bog of Lumrach for their King Medear. From the Irish by A. H. Leary. Pile on the soil, thrust on the soil, red are the oxen around to toil. Heavy the troops that my words obey, heavy they seem, and yet men are they. Strongly as piles are the tree trunks placed, red are the wattles above them laced. Tired are your hands, and your glances slant, one woman's winning this toil may grant. Oxen are ye, but revenge shall see, men who are white shall your servants be. Rushes from Tepha are cleared away, grief is the price that the men shall pay. Stones have been cleared from the rough Meath ground, where shall the gain or the harm be found? Thrust it in hand, force it in hand, nobles this night as an ox troop stand. Hard is the task that is asked, and who from the bridging of Lamrach shall gain or rue? End of the Song of the Fairies.
Sea-Maiden's Vengeance by George Sigerson. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 1. A great gallant king of yore ruled shore and sea of Erin. Noble then all section shone 'neath Rigden, son of daring. O'er the main of slow grey seas, with a breeze, lay his hallway. To behold his foreign friend, he would wend north to Norway. Sped his splendid vessels three, when the sea calmed its motion, Till they, sailing, sudden stop on the ridgy top of ocean. They refused to wend away, fixed they lay, nowhere faring. Then into the dark, deep deeps Ruadh leaps, greatly daring, when he dived for their release. Through the sea's surging waters, there he found the forms divine of its 9 beauteous daughters. These, with clear soft accents said, it was they stayed his sailing, that to leave 9 maidens sweet were a feat few prevailing. He with these 9 nymphs remained, where there reigned shade nor sadness, 'neath the waters where no wave ever gave gloom to gladness. One of these his bride became, still his fame forced him forward, but he vowed to greet her lips when his ships came from norward. Once on board he bade them sail past the pale billows breaking, and with one bound make their course to the Norse of quick speaking. O'er the salt sea then they rode, and abode, sweet the story, till the 7th glade year ends with their friends great in glory. Ruadh then ran out once more on the hoar salt sea faring, speeding forth his ships to reach to the bright far beach of Erin. Warped and wrong the royal will, solemn still is promise spoken. He should have gone to the maid, as he said, nor pledge have broken. When the Prince of Tuered's name unto Mured's borders came, around the shore foul his fame, a sound arose of sad acclaim. 'Twas the sweet voiced women's song, borne along in music's motion, following Ruadh's fleeing sail, o'er wail of wave worn ocean. Sailing in bronze boat they came, no flank frame made by mortal, those 9 maidens fair and fierce, till they pierce Albin's portal. Dire and dread the deed then done, there by one 'mid the water, Ruadh's son, her own she slew, vengeance new, sweet in slaughter. Then upraising high her hand, forth she cast him on the strand. Shrank the shore, and shuddering foam, from King Ruadh's welcome home. End of Sea-Maiden's Vengeance. Song of Maelduin by Thomas William Rolleston. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 1. There are veils that lift, there are bars that fall, there are lights that beacon, and winds that call. Good-bye! There are hurrying feet, and who dare not wait, for the hour is on us, the hour of fate, the circling hour of the flaming gate. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye! Aye, fair, fair they shine through the burning zone, the rainbow gleams of a world unknown. Goodbye, and oh, to follow, to seek, to dare, when step by step in the evening air floats down to meet us the cloudy stair. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye! The cloudy stair of the brig o' dread is the dizzy path that our feet must tread. Goodbye, O children of time, O nights and days that gather and wander and stand and gaze, and wheeling stars in your lonely ways. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye! The music calls and the gates unclose, onward and onward the wild way goes. Goodbye! We die in the bliss of a great new birth. O fading phantoms of pain and mirth! O fading loves of the old green earth! Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye! End of the Song of Maelduin. The Island of Sleep by William Butler Yeats. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part I. Fled foam underneath us and round us, a wandering and milky smoke, high as the saddle girth, covering away from our glance the tide, and those that fled and that followed from the foam pale distance broke. The immortal desire of immortals we saw in their faces, and sighed. I mused on the chase with the Fenians and Bran, Sigerson, Lomair, and never a song sang Niamh. And over my finger tips came now the sliding of tears, and sweeping of mist cold hair, and now the warmth of sighs, and after the quiver of lips. Were we days long or hours long in riding, when rolled in a grisly peace? An isle lay level before us, with dripping hazel and oak, and we stood on a sea's edge we saw not, for whiter than new washed fleece fled foam underneath us, and around us a wandering and milky smoke. And we rode on the plains of the sea's edge, barren and grey, grey sand on the green of the grasses, and over the dripping trees, dripping and doubling landward, as though they would hasten away, like an army of old men longing for rest from the moan of the seas. But the trees grew taller and closer, immense in their wrinkling bark, dropping, a murmurous dropping, old silence and that one sound, for no live creature lived there, no weasels moved in the dark. Long sighs arose in our spirits, beneath us bubbled the ground, and the ears of the horse went sinking away in the hollow night, for, as drift from a sailor's slow drowning, the gleams of the world and the sea and the sun ceased on our hands and our faces, on hazel and oak leaf the light, and the stars were blotted above us, and the whole of the world was one, till the horse gave a whinny, for cumbrous with stems of the hazel and oak, a valley flowed down from his hoofs, and there in the long grass lay, under the starlight and shadow, a monstrous slumbering folk, their naked and gleaming bodies poured out and heaped in the way, and by them were arrow and war-axe, arrow and shield and blade, and dew-blanched horns, in whose hollow a child of 3 years old could sleep on a couch of rushes, and all inwrought and inlaid, and more comely than man can make them with bronze and silver and gold. And each of the huge white creatures was huger than 80 men. The tops of their ears were feathered, their hands were the claw of birds, and shaking the plumes of the grasses and the leaves of the mural glen, the breathing came from those bodies, long, warless, grown whiter than curds. The wood was so spacious above them that he who had stars for his flocks could fondle the leaves with his fingers, nor go from his dew-cumbered skies. So long were they sleeping, the owls had builded their nests in their locks, filling the fibrous dimness with long generations of eyes. And over the limbs and the valley the slow owls wandered and came, now in a place of star-fire, and now in a shadow place wide. And the chief of the huge white creatures, his knees in his soft star-flame, lay loose in the place of shadow. We drew the reins by his side. Golden the nails of his bird claws, flung loosely along the dim ground. In one was a branch soft shining, with boughs more many than size. In midst of an old man's bosom, owls ruffling and pacing around, sidled their bodies against him, filling the shade with their eyes. And my gaze was thronged with the sleepers, known neither in house of a can, in a realm where the handsome are many, or in glamours by demons flung, of faces alive with such beauty, made known to the salt eye of man, yet weary with passions that faded when the sevenfold seas were young. And I gazed on the bell branch sleep's forebear, far sung by the Senachs. I saw how they slumbered, grown weary, there camping in grasses deep, of wars with the wide world, and pacing the shores of the wandering seas, laid hands on the bell branch and swayed it, and fed of unhuman sleep. Snatching the bourne of Niamh, I blew a lingering note. Came sound from those monstrous sleepers, a sound like the stirring of flies. He, shaking the fold of his lips, and heaving the pillar of his throat, watched me with mournful wonder out of the wells of his eyes. I cried, "Come out of the shadow, can of the fales of gold, and tell of your goodly household, and the goodly works of your hands, that we may muse in the starlight, and talk of the battles of old. Your questioner, Oisin, is worthy, he comes from the Fenian lands." Half open his eyes were, and held me, dull with smoke of their dreams. His lips moved slowly in answer, no answer out of them came. Then he swayed in his fingers the bell branch, slow dropping a sound in faint streams, softer than snowflakes in April, and piercing the marrow like flame. Wrapped in the wave of that music, with weariness more than of earth, the Moyle of my centuries filled me, and gone like a sea-covered stone were the memories of the whole of my sorrow, and the memories of the whole of my mirth. And a softness came from the starlight, and filled me full to the bone. In the roots of the grasses, the sorrels, I laid my body as low, and the pearl pale Niamh lay by me, her brow on the midst of my breast. And the horse was gone in the distance, and years after years 'gan flow. Square leaves of the ivy moved over us, binding us down to our rest. And man of the many white croziers, a sentry there I forgot, how the fetlocks drip blood in the battle, when the fallen on fallen lie rolled, how the falconer follows the falcon in the weeds of the heron's plot, and the names of the demons whose hammers made armour from Conhor of old. And, man of the many white croziers, a sentry there I forgot, that the spear shaft is made out of ashwood, the shield out of osier and hide, how the hammers spring on the anvil, on the spearhead's burning spot, how the slow blue-eyed oxen of Finn low sadly at evening-tide. But in dreams, mild man of the croziers, driving the dust with their throngs, moved round me, of seamen or landsmen, all who are winter tales. Came by me the cans of the red branch, with roaring of laughter and songs, or moved as they moved once, love-making, or piercing the tempest with sails. Came Blanid, Mac Nessa, tall Fergus, who feastward of old time slunk, Cook Barach, the traitor, and Warward, the spittle on his beard never dry, Dark Bala, as old as a forest, Car-born, his mighty head sunk, helpless, men lifting the lids of his weary and death-making eye. And by me, in soft red raiment, the Fenians moved in loud streams, And Grania walking and smiling, sewed with a needle of bone. So lived I and lived not, so wrought I and wrought not, with creatures of dreams, in a long iron sleep, as a fish in the water goes dumb as a stone. End of the Island of Sleep, on the waters of Moyle, by George Sigerson, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 1. Translated from the Irish. Time passed pleasantly with the Swan children on the lake. In the day they conversed with their kindred and friends who had encamped around. At night they sang slow, sweet fairy music that made sorrow sleep. This term closed, they bade farewell to all, and went forth to the waters of Moyle, where they suffered from icy storms. Fionnuala, covering her young brothers with her wings, sang: Life is weary here, great the snowing here, night is dreary here, bleak the blowing here. On a day they saw a fairy cavalcade at the river Banner, and were told that Lear and their friends were celebrating the Feast of Age. Happy but for their absence, Fionnuala made this lay: Gay this night Lear's royal house chiefs carouse, mead flows amain. Cold this night his children roam chill home the icy main. For our mantles fair are foined feathers curving round our breasts. Often silken robes we had, purple clad we sat at feasts. For our viands here, and wine, bitter brine and pallid sands, oft the hazel mead they serve in carved vessels to our hands. Now our beds are the bare rock, smit with shock of heavy seas. Often soft breast down we'll spread for the bed of grateful ease. Though 'tis now in frost our toil to swim Moyle with drooping wings, oft we rode as royal wards, and our guards were sons of kings. End of On the Waters of Moyle. The Return of the Children of Lear, by George Sigerson, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 1. In the extremity of their suffering, frozen in Eres sea, the brothers were inconsolable. Fionnuala asked them to believe in the true God, and they were relieved, and suffered no more. At the end of their final term, they arose and went very lightly and airily towards the city of their father, and thus they found the place void, desolate, with nought but the bare green paths, and forests of nettles, without house, without fire, without tribes. Then the four drew close together, and thrice they raised on high the cry of wailing. Then Fionnuala spoke this lay: Strange is all this place to me, no house, no home, no gladness. As 'tis thus, this place to see, alas, my heart, what sadness! I no bound, no sound, no ember, no group where princes gather. Not thus do we remember its old days with our father. No horn, no goblet dancing, no halls of light each morrow, no youth, no proud steed prancing, all signs portendous sorrow. All the void that here I see, alas, my pain grows stronger, makes it, this night, clear to me, its loved lord lives no longer. City, where of old we knew all arts of joy exerted, what a fate of woe and rue! Thou art this night deserted. Dark our doom and tragical, condemned the waves to wander. Near such ill fate magical did mortal yet fall under. Now the city populous gives weeds and woods its favour. No man lives who'd welcome us to this our homestead ever. End of The Return of the Children of Lear. The Sea God's Address to Bran, by W. M. Hennessy, from the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 1. From the Early Irish. To Bran, as in his coracle he glides, a level of blue tides appears the deep, when o'er my shadowy steeds I lose the rein, a flowery plain my chariot seems to sweep. Yea, what to Bran uplifted on the prancing of his proud skiff is smooth blue glancing seck, beneath this burning chariot of two wheels, a breadth of bloom delightful laughs for me. Bran, from his skiff side, views the joyous onset of waves red crested in the sunset glow. I see, over all the plain of sports flower bedded, of crimson headed flowers, the faultless flow. Sea horses glisten in the ocean azure, far as Bran's eyes can measure, but to mine, rivers a stream of honey bright are pouring, for storing in my land beyond the brine. Brilliant the sea whereon the skiff is guided, dazzling the surf divided by thine hand, yellow and azure, its white brightness fairy. It is indeed a light and airy land. The speckled salmon from the wave outleaping, where Bran goes sweeping through the ocean's wiles, are calves and lambs, nor-fishes of the water, whose slaughter ne'er our party of peace defiles. And though thou seest but one lone chariot rider, a glider o'er the full bloom'd pleasant plain, from countless viewless steeds and chariots golden, thine eyes are holden by the mocking main. Large is the plain, with happy hosts 'tis crowded, its colours in unclouded glory fall, a stream of silver, stairs of golden splendour, a full free welcome tender unto all, a joyous game, enchanting and delicious, above the luscious wine is featly played, by men and gentlewomen set in session, without transgression, in the leafy shade. Along a woodland's top, that greenly bridges blue airy ridges, has thy Curragh swum, beneath thy very prow its shade impeaches with blushing peaches the empurpled plum. A wood where vagrant fruit and flower are wreathing, with clusters of the fragrant breathing vine, a wood of foliage rich and golden ring, a wood without decaying or decline. We have been here since first the earth had being, yet neither seeing here old age nor death, and hence we fear not any base beginning of mortal sinning shall cut short our breath. Then let not Bran relax his steadfast rowing, the land of women shall be showing soon, yea, even bright with every joyful blessing he shall be pressing ere the rise of moon. End of the Sea God's Address to Bran.